You ever heard of the Matrix? You ever heard of machine brains or humanoids? Or anything that could be like, exactly like a human brain, but only in the virtue? Could I be a Matrix man? Could you? The question is, are your eyes and your brain, is the ability to see light in our known atomic world of the measures that we understand? All of our periodic table of elements in the form of an electric circuit will not conduct the carriage of visible light very well. This is one thing that it cannot do. Unless it is in the form of brain matter, which is a form of hydrocarbons. Okay, so what happens is you can't create a human brain such as mine that has the ability to see visible light with any matter that they have in existence except something that resembles hydrocarbons, which you would think, oh, there's hydrocarbon fiber, conductive fibers. Well, that's cool and all. There are hydrocarbon or carbonic organic matter, but the problem is none of them will conduct visible light. Have you ever seen that they do? They don't carry the light, not in a circuit. What that means is the signal is lost at that dosage. Otherwise, if something becomes that well visible light at any proportional dosage, the circuit will usually break. It will corrode. Okay, so this is another reason why it doesn't conduct light very well in a tiny microscopic brain made out of carbonic hydrocarbons or any organic matter that is enabled to conduct light in the visible spectrum. Okay, so no one that can see light in various colors is a matrix. If they can see and they can tell you what the color of something is, they are not a matrix. They can't. There's no atom arrangement in the periodic table that will ever be able to conduct visible light in the way that it would work to be in the level of the conscious mind of the ability to understand what frequency as a color is that we see, that we know of. Okay, and as we measure it as having a frequency, which is done with a special type of device that does not act as a brain, but just a simple frequency modulation. Okay, so when it becomes a brain, that's when the light cannot exist. It's when these carbonics, a lot of variety of things, they can detect light. We can even read the frequency of light with a variety of machines. But as soon as we try to modulate it as a conscious mind that we can see a light in our atomic measures of this world that we know of, we are not matrices. We're not androids, not humanoids seeing light. Okay, this is the first half of understanding all physics of our world, that we are not a humanoid in a matrix, which is made of a machine. Okay, and other matrices like brains in a jar, mind fields, alien orgasmotrons, where they have like brains trapped inside some alien body, magic brains, any kind of other brain in a jar, neuron chips. None of this I mean, the Matrix, like the movie, none of this stuff works. It's not geometrically possible. I mean, even if you were going to high grow a brain, it's not ever really possible to produce that kind of geometry. It can't be grown. It would fade away. It would be corrosive immediately. There's so much energy and geometrical vector dynamics that are dependent on the ability to see light and to act as also a human brain at the same time, that it is not funny anymore about thinking about that humans are really humans and that the Matrix is never going to be human. Not really. It won't even compete. Okay, our light mind is much faster than any of my computers in my apartment. Okay, I am smarter than a computer in my apartment. The only thing is, I can't calculate as fast. I just know the end result before the computer does. It's simple, it's geometry. I think in the form of image geometry vector, not as much math calculation function. Okay, but I can do both, just not like a computer can math function. But you know what the problem with the computer is? It knows nothing about geometrical vectors. It's very slow at geometrical vectors, very fast at math calculation. I'm pretty slow at math calculation and very fast at geometrical vectors. Totally different subject. The two of us are opposite. Me, the computer, we're not the same. Okay, so that's basically how that really works. Matrix is highly unlikely. But if the physics of our world were very erroneous, okay, then we have to go and reverse theory into the most primitive forms of law, which are 5 laws of the universe. Volume, divisible particles, as having volume, because if you have no volume, which you take away any one single dimension of height, width, or depth from any object, it ceases to exist entirely. It cannot exist. Then there is magnetism. All particles that have any magnetism, they pertain to magnetism. This is obvious. It has to occur. It's an infinite universal law, or life cannot exist, such as me. So next to that, even if you're in the Matrix, or you think you're not, but you are, the 4th law is the law of motion. The law of motion must occur, or you cannot exist. Plain and simple. The universe would be nothing and or emptiness with a solid in it. No motion would have ever occurred. Okay, that's the 4th law. 5th law is empty space. Without empty space, you cannot have any of the other 4 laws, because it will just be a dense, saturated, solid object, which cannot do anything at all except sit there. It's simply not real to do that. I exist, therefore I am. The 5 laws of physics. Makes sense? So, the Matrix, it's not ever really going to work. Not in realistic human terms. Maybe these fake androids that don't ever conceive light. Like your computer, it doesn't operate ever knowing the frequency of light. When you use a camera, all that it really does is measure a generic voltage, and it tells its microchip to relay the voltage to a computer that says this is the color, that which it is. It holds that as data. It takes that data color and then sends it out to what you call an LED TV or an LCD TV or whatever, a monitor, or even a cathode ray tube, or whatever LEDs, any kind of matrix you want to put it on. It will tell you what the color is based on a voltage, but not the entire frequency. Each frequency of light equals a specific voltage. It's called electron volts. Okay? It doesn't have to be known what the frequency is in order to understand what the color of light is. So what you do is it tells you a voltage based on a pixel in a camera. Well, it relays that data once again. It goes in the computer, it says, okay, tell my monitor to turn on an LED that automatically emits these colors based on a megapixel frame of reference. Okay, and rows and lines of varieties of frequencies that can happen switching on and off LEDs. There's no frequency there. It's slow as shit. Okay, no big deal. There's no real relay of light actually in the computer between the camera and the monitor. None of that is actually being relayed. The computer is honestly a 3 gigahertz, and light is much faster frequency than 3 gigahertz. How can you put frequency of light in a 3 gigahertz computer? You cannot. It won't capacitate. The CPU is too slow. Okay, it can't see the entire frequency, therefore it can't have light. This is why humans that see light cannot be computers. You could have a computer that is in the form of a supercomputer at gamma hertz frequency, the fastest known universal frequency of the universe that we know of in physics. And there's no frequency faster at traveling at the speed of light as a photon. Okay, this is what they claim, but we think maybe that could be a lie. We're not sure. Okay, but no one has ever had the ability to measure, or will ever really probably be able to measure anything faster than the speed of light with the frequency of gamma hertz. Okay, whatever the gamma hertz range is that we know of. It doesn't seem physically possible because there's no device that would ever sustain it. Not in our world. A gamma hertz frequency, a supercomputer, has to be super cooled in order to keep the electrons stable so they don't shoot off at the speed of light and cause the processor to blow up and just explode. It vectors. And when an electron is oscillating at that frequency, if it catches the gamma hertz oscillation from an electrical nuclear charge and not a photon charge, it relays the photons at gamma. And if the electron is a gamma frequency, it will honestly be equal to the light frequency, and it will not be able to sustain the microchip. So they have to drop it to almost near absolute zero or sub-zero temperatures in order to maintain the quantum supercomputer. Okay, it can't happen. So even if you were a quantum computer, problem with seeing light in any computer is that the frequency is capacitated over the range, but the problem is when it becomes a human brain, it will not modulate correctly, and it will fail drastically. And connecting it in networks, it will very much corrupt at the frequency of light. It will start to burn. Okay, you cannot conduct electricity ever at all at the speed of white or any color of light without causing it to catch on electrical fire. Okay, an LED, when it burns at a hot light, when it's actually at the light frequency, when it gets there, okay, it's actually a hot form of radiation. Okay, but what continuously reduces that radiation is not in the form of a microchip. Okay, you wouldn't be able to do this as a microchip. It's what happens to a microchip when light is introduced to its circuits. It will corrode very soon. Very soon. It will not last. Now, even at gigahertz in the microwave range, it will corrode as well. These devices will corrode, emitting microwaves. Okay, they will break down if you do not shield them. But however, even if you shielded something from light, it's the electric of it is going to cause it to corrode eventually. Unless the circuit is very certainly perfect. It's highly unlikely to ever make a circuit that's potentially perfect. Like, you would have to set it in like maybe a diamond. And the problem with this is it's going to screw up the circuit. So when you're dealing with atoms and combinations of things that try to stabilize a high frequency in a circuit of atoms, and also if it could go that far and then into the modulation of a human brain, in order to modulate the information that we sustain, that we work with, and our geometrics and our visuals, and all of the image data that goes through our brains and the sensory and everything, you could not do this in the form of a visual light. It would corrode, it would break, it would die. It's not going to exist. Okay? It would do it very, very, very soon. We know that when you have a circuit, even if you put it in a light bulb and try to stabilize it with a noble gas, guess what happens? How long does a light bulb last that you've ever known, any kind, pick one out, with a noble gas, and ask yourself, will that light bulb sustain for more than, a couple of years? No, it will not. In 2 years it will be dead. Okay, there's never been a light bulb that we've ever known that would ever work conducting the light as it does, that will have the ability to sustain itself more than so many, couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 years or something. It never happens. They blow. Okay, I am 41 years old. I have my own memories. They did not replace my chip. Well, they could have turned me off and replaced my chip every so many years. But guess what? In a microchip, you conduct light. It's even worse than an incandescent light bulb. Okay, an LED, it actually doesn't actually conduct light in the electronic circuit of the LED. It actually conducts it through a space, maybe potentially an air or gas, of an anvil of an LED that is at the proper proportion that it cannot burn the LED in a long frame of time. But problem is, it's not being conducted through a circuit. So if you were to use gases as brain matter in little tiny tubes, such as an LED, you're going to have a problem with this too. Because what happens is, it moves around, it's going to oscillate. Say you could set it to the right frequency in a tube. Okay, guess what happens? Light is going to constantly interfere with it. Okay, even darkness, heat. Gases are extremely sensitive to heat. Okay, they float when you change them 5 degrees. They'll change the pressure of a balloon in 5-degree changes. That adds electricity to gases. So, what is it? Do you know reality at all? We either are or aren't in the matrix, but I'm predicting that we aren't, because we see light. Simply because we have the ability as a hydrocarbon organism to see light is the only way a human can see visible light. Is that through our eyes and our hydrocarbons, light will transmit perfectly as visible light. Now, I don't know if we see all frequencies of visible light very well. Some of us are colorblind, things like that. But we see visible light very well, generally. And guess what? No machine really seems to be able to do this. Not in the form of a quantum brain. It would have to be a very large brain. So what if you were a very large matrix brain and they were able to conduct light into you as a giant, massive processor with an unknown size? Would it be like the size of a state or something, like a whole landmass, a huge body, gigantic? You know how many capacitors and transistors and resistors it takes to make a single oscillating memory of basically a processor, a single oscillating on and off switch of a processor would take you, if it was any kind of size of about 1 millimeter or larger, it would take you the size of the state of Indiana in order to make a very generic oscillator that would never conduct the light like a frequency of light. Okay, it would be a massive operation. Okay, just to use standard 1 millimeter components to build a processor as a human brain. It would take like the state of Indiana to do it, or maybe a county, somewhere between a county of Indiana, and there's like 20 or 30 or 40 counties in Indiana or something like that. Then you would take, if that wasn't the case, if the size was 6 or 10 times larger, it would take the entire state of Indiana to create one human brain. Make sense? No, it doesn't. But you'll get it eventually. So either way, you have to make microchips in order to compete with the size factor, the size reduce factor. Okay, the size division is really what it's called. To compete with what is practical. Okay, that's why they make microchips, because the original transistor components were not practical. They're too extremely huge. That's where microprocessing came about. Too huge. So therefore, you're probably not in the matrix, but if you are, you know, we can still challenge it. It seems highly unlikely. I don't think it works for reality that we're living, because we also have the ability to see things and visualize things in a very robust way, as if we were moving things in our mind, much to the very nice graphical motion of objects in our mind. We could see things in our mind. We can visualize inside and actually have photographic memory. And this is all human. It seems to be human. And I'm telling you that the Matrix most likely won't be able to produce the human quality with the ability to see visual light. Okay, we'll not be able to do this. So, other than that, there may be some other things, like such as hacking the Matrix would be 7.888 billion people, all looking at about 11,000 red or multicolored pixel dots on a sheet of paper, all at the same time in 1 day's time, to hack the mainframe computer of one pipeline of one supercomputer that controls all sublets in one matrix, which is 7.8 billion people must look at these dots and move them around in their visual perspective, see the dots, recognize the dots of 11,000 dots on a sheet of 11 by 8.5 piece of white paper. And as they would do this, it would mean that the full capacity of one octobit was through the gamma frequency of a supercomputer. Okay? And that would be really cool, because then you'd have 7.888 billion people hacking the octobit, and it would flood and it would crash. People would start to become invisible, and the world would start going crazy. Okay, because then the program would go, I'm dead, no good, sorry. And that's how it works. It would die, it would be flooded with pixel dots of data that are currently on the main pipeline. And you have to do this with all the people of 7.888 billion people together on one landmass visually, okay? So, that would probably flood the octobit, which is the highest rate a supercomputer can actually attain. Okay? Somewhere around an octobit. And that's known to us physically. Okay? It's just the highest frequency, gamma. So, there you go. This is the hypothesis, the theory, that the matrix does or doesn't exist. Many of us are going to question it. We'll allow it to be researched and over again. But technically, you got to learn the whole periodic table of elements and what it is able to do in the form of the human brain working with its octobit and the ability of multiples to operate in a system of a maximum capacity of one reference, a whole matrix, together in one frame of one pipeline that can be communicated as one pipeline. All computers who chain together are one pipeline. Okay, it's just one pipeline. If they communicate all together at the same time, it has to be one pipeline or it is not the same computer network. Okay, it's a different computer. Okay, a computer is one pipeline. Multiple computers are multiple computers. If they're not in the same pipeline, they're not the same computer. There could be multiple matrices if they exist. Problem is, we don't think they do. So you're competing with the octobit, how the human brain works, geometry of other realities that we don't even know about, and the general 5 laws of the universe, and how that geometrically in an infinite way can come together as any possibility of interactions of the 5 laws, and how they compete and compare with what we know in our world, atomically, partically, with the 5 laws that have to exist no matter what in any universe of life, anything that can live. Therefore, you take this, you compare it to this light idea that I have, that light cannot really truly be well modulated in the form of human consciousness, as it would be accurate, because it would fail severely and it just wouldn't work. Humans on their own, when they conduct light and knowledge and visualization, it affects them too. Light can actually affect all parts of your body at any given time. You know, it's part of your conduct. Energy is all around you, they say. So it's energy everywhere. But how powerful it is simply how it works with that power. You'll just measure it. Light has certain electron volts. Life has certain varieties of light. They're not extremely powerful, but they have power. Power is everywhere in this solar system that we live in, the universe. Okay, particles are everywhere. So they're in a cycle. They're the 5 laws. Now you compete with this, design the humanoid brain and make it work. Problem is, it has to have a consistent ability to visualize a light frequency. If you can't actually, here's the thing, if you see light, that means you have the light in your conscious mind. It is there. If I see purple, my mind is purple. It's actually radiating purple around me and through my optic nerve, into my brain, into my memory. I see purple, I am purple. It turns me purple. If I allow it to, it could, maybe not, probably not. It may pertain to turning me purple if I see purple. Okay? In some part of me, in my optic brain nerve, it's conducting and hopping across the atoms because they allow that frequency. All atoms and all molecules and compounds, they don't always accept all the same frequencies. It's a variety of different things that accept specific colors and frequencies and different heat temperatures and things like that. They all pertain to different frequency spectrums. Okay, they have a small range or a large range or different ranges, different species of radiation colors, radiation frequencies. This is just how atoms work. They don't all absorb the same frequency. Okay, so this is the point I'm trying to make. Humans can't be a geometrical object in the matrix, operate the way that we do, see light, understand it, measure it, and see it, and exists in the matrix, because no machine that would have to be just like biology could be in the replication of a human brain, the same object, but still be different, because it wouldn't be able to sustain the energy of light being conducted in a quantum circuit. And the geometry would be wrong, and it would not work physically for a variety of reasons, that frequencies will not work in objects that are not meant for them to conduct that section of frequency. Just the way of atoms. Other than that, there's another world we don't understand, and this one is entirely a lie. Okay, that's all we can say. Then the point of that is I'm thinking that in all geometry, the frequency of light is the most important fundamental principle. Without light, how could they have ever made anything unless they are seeing something different that they call light? What if our light is their light, except we think it's a high frequency and it's really a low frequency in another world? Well, there's a variety of things that we think we know. They just have different numbers applied, different geometry applied, where everything that we know is a lie. Our entire world could be entirely a lie. But the problem is, that's the hard part. Coming up with a way to use geometry to solve, if not, or if the world is true or not. And that is the moment of truth, is when we hack the capacity of all quantum frequency of the entire matrix, as it is connected to that which is connected to the matrix, which are humanoids, or animals, or living creatures. We are the matrix. Everything around us is attached to us. So, that means we own what is attached to us. It belongs to our matrix. Or if not, it's temporary. It's quantumly entangled in the computer as a property that pertains to us. Legally or illegally, however you want to look at that in the matrix, or in reality, either one. Okay, so that's the point. Knowing the difference between reality is the matrix versus everything, every 5 laws of the magnetic particles, of volume, motion, and empty space. It's that simple. That's how to decide if we are in a matrix or not. Any kind of matrix. Like I said, the alien matrices of like alien minds inside of bodies, or like machine matrices, or brains in a jar, or neuron chips, or any of that. It can't geometrically reach its real human potential. If we understand what real human potential really is, it's a lot of things to think about physically as a dynamic that comes to